Hello and welcome to a brand new Arseblog Arsecast right here on Arseblog.com. How are you? Hope you're well. Thank you very much indeed, as always, for being here. It's a Thursday. We've brought the Arsecast forward from Friday, and this is what we're going to do throughout this season because with Champions League back, there is an appetite to discuss and debate and relive the games as soon as possible. So throughout this Champions League campaign, we will be doing the Arsecast the day after the game. So a Tuesday night we'll do one Wednesday morning, Wednesday night we'll do one Thursday morning, and that will take the place in the normal schedule of the regular Friday Arsecast. For more listening pleasure, of course, we do preview all our Premier League games over on Patreon, so you'll have something to listen to if you are a Patreon member. But in terms of the regular feed, we want to get these out as quickly as possible because, well, just people want to talk about these games. And when you go back into the Champions League and you kick off with a 4-0 win over PSV, oof, nobody wants to wait. So this is why we're getting on it pretty much straight away. And we're going to keep it consistent as much as possible. So we're going to have a regular guest to do these Champions League podcasts with me throughout this European campaign, hopefully all the way to May, is Phil Costa. Hello, Phil.
Hello, Andrew. How are we doing?
We're good. We're good. You know, I had a sort of optimistic hat on yesterday when I was thinking about this game and thinking about what it means to be back in the Champions League and all the rest of it. And there was part of me that was like, you know, it's maybe a little bit overblown, all this. You know, people going on, when the anthem plays out, it's going to be amazing. And I was like, yeah, it'll be good. It'll be fine. I'm glad to be back in the Champions League. Then the anthem played, and when the anthem finished, there was a roar from the crowd inside the stadium, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm on board with all this.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back. Yeah, really, really good. I have to admit, I felt a lot of jealousy and FOMO to the people who were there in the stadium, even though I'm pretty sure they went home with trench foot, you know, because they didn't stop raining for 12 hours yesterday in London. But yeah, I used to go quite regularly with my dad and my grandpa to the games. So it's on my list this season for sure to get back for one because it just looked amazing to be in there. Yeah,
it looked good, didn't it? The lights and the wavy round Champions League thingy and all the rest of it. It did look amazing. It looked amazing. And even if the weather was a bit below par, Arsenal's performance on the night was anything but. So we're going to delve into the nuts and bolts of all this. I suppose we should start with the team selection. Nothing too surprising. I'd sort of thought that Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus would start this game. They did. Trossard in for Martinelli. David Raya kept his place. I don't know if that's a discussion point, anymore. We've sort of done the goalkeeper thing to death a little bit in the last few days, but any sort of thoughts on the lineup? It was pretty strong considering there's a North London derby on the horizon. I did wonder if he might change things around just a little bit more, but he was obviously very, very keen to make sure that we kicked off this European campaign in good style.
Yeah, I think that's it really. You know, you're at home. It's the first game back in a long time. You kind of want to put your flag down really. And I think we did that, you know, and look, the obvious talking point pre-match was Raya starting again ahead of Ramsdale. I wasn't overly surprised, but it did feel a bit harsh, I have to say, considering Ramsdale was quite an influential piece in getting us back here in the first place. But ultimately, Raya did nothing wrong against Everton, so it probably made sense to start him again. And, you know, we want ruthlessness from Arteta, and it kind of echoed the situation with Leno and Ramsdale. You know, when he first managed to get into the team, it was that first international break, and, you know, he was basically straight in. And that's the ruthlessness in action. So,
I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
I mean, because, you know, you say we want ruthlessness. We want standards to improve. We want players to be driven and motivated. And you want to raise the level and continuously raise the level. That's what you got to do if you're going to compete with a team like Manchester City. But there's also the human element, isn't there? Where Ramsdale is just, we all love Aaron Ramsdale. He's been a very, very good player for us, really popular figure. People, you know, he's part of, you know, when Mikel Arteta has talked consistently about, you know, connecting the club and the fans again. I think he's been a big part of that, or at least has played his part in that, where you're looking at players on the pitch and you're looking at players and thinking, I like you. I don't want to take you out to the woods and drive off and leave you, like with some of the guys you've had in the past. And Ramsdale, I think, has been, one of the players in particular with whom fans have connected in a very big way. So it's trying to find that balance between the ruthlessness that, yes, we want that, but it's like, you can't feel bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for him as well, but I also can't let that cloud my judgment. And what I've seen from Ramsdale maybe since January has not been his best, most consistent form. I think there's been some high profile mistakes. I think his confidence has been hit slightly. And look, maybe this is just a realization of what's going to happen now with both of these keepers. I mean, it's not, this won't have been a secret to Ramsdale that a top quality keeper is coming in and look, there's competition for your place now. Mm-hmm. And, we know that Ramsdale is no shrinking violet. This is going to be an opportunity for him to step up, to fight back for his place. And, maybe this is just the little kick he needs to find his best level again. Look, Raya was very assured on the night. Mm-hmm. He wasn't overly tested like against Everton, but we spoke about his superpowers on the New Player podcast after he signed. And two of the things that stood out were his long distribution, which was influential towards the end of the first half and towards the third goal in particular, and his ability to come and claim crosses, which was faultless. He made 5 high claims in the box. His decision making was very secure, his timing very secure. And this is just what it's going to be like ultimately for the team. It's good to have this, and it's all about the reaction. And as we said, I don't think Ramsdale is the kind of character to feel sorry for himself and mope around. I think this is going to be the fire in his belly that he needs to get his place back.
All right, well, let's see how that plays out. On the pitch, of course, Arsenal took an early lead. I think there's something quite nice about Bukayo Saka on his first Champions League appearance, scoring his first Champions League goal early in the game, which is, I think, something we've needed. Maybe in a couple of games this season, it hasn't quite happened, but an early goal for him. And there's something quite fitting about a player like Saka who emerged in the dark times and has led us into the light, if you will. He's been instrumental in getting us back into the Champions League, and he scores our first Champions League goal in over 6 years.
Yeah, a lovely moment, a really, really lovely moment. I think he's warming up, I have to say. I mean, he has such a nice appreciation for the gears in his game, and I don't think it's been... Oh, that's incredible. That's my door. Unbelievable.
Doorbell music, here we come.
Doorbell music. 1 second. Yeah.
So, yeah, you were talking about Saka and his gears.
I mean, yeah, he has such a nice appreciation for the gears in his game. And look, it hasn't been the most electric start to the season. I think he has looked a little bit leggy at times. But when a switch needs to be flicked, he can do it, And I think yesterday he knew that Serginho Dest was a weak point yesterday, playing at left back when he's normally a right back. Noah Lang was playing ahead of him, and he isn't the most diligent defender, let's just say. And he was just going at him again and again. And look, that was the way in. Goal and an assist on his Champions League debut, taken off with 20 minutes to spare ahead of Sunday. And, it just felt right. Like you said, he was a big, important, consistent figure in kind of guiding us out of the trenches. And that was his moment. He took it perfectly, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the night. I
mean, look, the discussion about Saka has been so interesting because I think we all know there's a level that he can play to that he hasn't quite played to yet. But in 7 games this season, if you include the Community Shield, 3 goals and 4 assists. So it's a goal involvement in per game, basically, he's averaging, which is, when you consider the fact that maybe he can play better and maybe he can deliver more, is just amazing end product. You know, for a guy, and I've said this countless times, for a guy who's 22 to be delivering at this level is unbelievable. It really is, you know. Young players come through and they sort of, they have their moments and then they plateau a bit and then they maybe lose form a bit and then they come back into form. Like, his consistency is just unbelievable. And I think it's worth pointing out again, because I don't know that we should take it for granted in any way. I think we should sometimes just step back and appreciate what we've got in Bukayo Saka, and hopefully what is still to come from Bukayo Saka. But in the short term, just sort of look at this guy and think, holy fuck, you know, what a jewel in the academy crown he is.
Well, this could be, you know, this weekend could be his 86th consecutive league appearance. And that's no shock, no surprise. As you said, he's been the model of consistency, improvement. And, you know, he was kind of the perfect player and person to kind of hedge our bets on, you know, because he's one of us. He came through the academy. Look, he's had to play at left back a bit. He's played at left wing back. But it's just incredible. We are witnessing someone develop into, I mean, he already is one of the best players in the world, but we've had to watch that right in front of our eyes, and it's just been amazing to see. And yeah, as we said, he was just one of an incredibly slick and firing front three yesterday, which I'm sure we'll get onto.
Yeah, we will. I mean, the second goal he was involved in, he played the ball across to Leandro Trossard. Very much enjoyed the finish. Somebody on Twitter this morning complained that I didn't reference the Andrei Arshavin goal against Barcelona in terms of that finish, and I can see where he's coming from in that regard. But what starts this goal is a really smart intervention in midfield in our own half from Gabriel Jesus, who wins the ball, drives into their half, plays it out to Bukayo Saka. Like you said, maybe there's a weakness at left back in the PSV ranks. They didn't quite get close to him. I think it was quite noticeable, wasn't it, that PSV's approach obviously was not to sit, and it wasn't to sort of spoil or park the bus or anything like that, which, you know, is to their detriment and to our enjoyment. So I'm not complaining about it. But I don't quite know what they thought they were going to get from Bukayo Saka in this game, because even when you're playing somebody like Manchester United, I remember very early in that game, Saka got the ball in a similar kind of position, maybe a little deeper in the opposition half, but a similar kind of position, picked up a pass, and immediately Marcus Rashford sprinted back to make it a 2-on-1 for Manchester United against Saka. And this defending, if you want to call it defending, was nowhere near as thorough. And Saka had the time to sort of drive on, cut inside on his left foot, roll a great pass across to Trossard, who was basically on his own. Great finish. You know, you could say the defending wasn't brilliant, but I think you have to give Arsenal credit for absolutely maximising the transition that we created when Jesus intercepted that ball.
Yeah, I mean, you and Lewis discussed it on the preview pod, right? Thank you to Peter Bosch with your high line and man-to-man pressing. You know, Arsenal were probably for the first time this season finally afforded some space. You know, after trudging our way through some games against some deep blocks, or we've had to earn every inch in the penalty area. You know, this is what happens when you give this Arsenal attack space. And like you said, they were onto that loose ball in a flash. Jesus looked so sharp and on it in that first half. And, you know, what I love about Leandro Trossard is that we are a young team, but when he plays, it just feels like there's an adult in the room. You know, every touch, every pass, every body movement seems to have a reason behind it. There's an intention behind it, and get him anywhere around that penalty box and he is clinical. You know, I love the finish. I love that he just took the pace of the pass, guided it into the corner. It was a lovely goal, a lovely move. And, you know, I thought he was a bit unfortunate to sit out for the first few weeks after having such a strong preseason. But when he plays, you can see his quality. And, you know, again, in terms of value for money, especially when you see what happened in the days prior to that with Mykhailo Mudryk going to Chelsea, With each passing week, it seems like a major bullet being dodged.
Well, look, he ended the game with a goal, an assist, 3 key passes. Following up on the goal that he scored at the weekend with his left foot. This is a beautiful right-footed finish. Mm-hmm. He fits. I think he fits. I think he's somebody, like you say, in a fairly young team who's been able to come in and deliver. I know he hasn't maybe scored as many goals as people would like, but he got a lot of assists last season for us, and he got an assist for the third goal as well. But I think a lot of the discussion about this third goal has to center around Gabriel Jesus. The distribution from Raya from the back, like, it's a good kick. It's a good long kick. And again, I think we've had this discussion, haven't we, about the trajectory of his long balls. They're not high and floaty and they drop out of the sky, giving the defender all the time in the world. There is a sort of nice, slightly lower arc to them, which makes it maybe a bit easier for our players to get there. But the control that Jesus showed to take that ball down in a packed PSV half, we had to go back with it a little bit. Then it's a good ball over the top from Gabriel to Trossard, who made a great run down the left-hand side, cross to the back post, touch, shot, bang. I mean, starting and finishing the move from an outfield sense from Jesus was superb. And I think he's shown in this game, what he brings to this team, and maybe what we lost sight of a little bit. In his absence, the team did well, but we had discussions in the first part of last season about what exactly he is doing, how he's doing it, the different level that he has brought to the team. Mikel Arteta said last week about Gabriel Jesus, he changed our world, is what he said, which is a fairly grand statement. But you can see what he means when he's capable of pulling off stuff like that.
Yeah, he has, and he was absolutely magic yesterday. I feel like I always start Gabriel Jesus praise with an Eddie Nketiah disclaimer, that being second best to a player of this quality should not be considered a slight against you or a bad thing. He is just a brilliant footballer. He is our centre forward. He is the perfect centre forward for this team in terms of what Arteta wants. And how sharp does he look? I say that he plays with a high vis jacket on because you can't miss him. He bangs and crashes around. He drops into midfield. He can hold defenders off and bring balls out of the sky. He can link and vacate space for our forwards who then benefit from that. And, they couldn't handle him. Armel Bella-Kotchap is a good young defender. Couldn't handle him, and his goal was taken so well, the touch and finish. Even before then, he was inches away from connecting to a Ben White cross, and there was another shot that looked destined for the top corner after some sharp footwork in the box, in which the keeper had to make a good save. This was Gabriel Jesus at his best. And again, look, the opposition was maybe not of the highest quality, but I was a little bit worried, I have to say, when I saw that first injury update come out. I think it was just after the lineup was released for the Monaco game in the Emirates Cup, when they said he had a knee problem and that he'd have to be assessed. There was just kind of a vagueness around that, and I was expecting 4, 5, 6 weeks, but for him to be back already looking like this, I mean, he just elevates our game, and I just love him. I really love the way he plays because it's all in, all action, and if he can start to add some goals to his game, who knows? Who knows what he can achieve this season? He is just so good, and more importantly, good in the Champions League.
Yes,
his record in the Champions League is so good, and most of the time he's not even been starting. So if he can kind of bring that experience and expertise to this side who are the opposite of that, by all means, bring it on.
Yeah, I mean, his comeback from the knee injury has been, I think you probably have to say, really well managed. Mm-hmm. He came on late in the Fulham game and really couldn't do anything at that point. Similarly, late in the Manchester United game, he played a bit for Brazil during the international break, came on against Everton, got a good 25 minutes, 30 minutes under his belt in that game, and he's ready to start now against PSV. And I think you see, how carefully they've brought him back to make sure that when he does come back, he's at exactly the right level to contribute in the way that we want him to contribute. I mean, he had 6 shots yesterday, 3 shots on target. If you want to be critical, you might say, well, maybe he's a little bit profligate with 6 shots. Maybe he should score a little more. But his all-round contribution to our performance was unbelievable. He only made 13 passes in the game, but he had 37 or something touches of the ball. So it shows that he is, part of the way that this team is glued together, or part of the way that the sort of front and back of the team are glued together. And he is just so fundamental to that.
Yeah, and it's what you said. Maybe he's not playing passes every second, but it's just the way he knows when to go, when to stay, when to run the channel, when to maybe drop back a little bit as well. And, I don't think that kind of in-game intelligence or appreciation for his role can be underestimated, because I think by most standards, Eddie Nketiah came in when he was out, did well, scored a couple of goals. But this is just another level of player we're looking at here. And it's so good to have him back, because people talk about the Saliba injury last year. But I think the Jesus injury gets swept under the carpet a little bit, because it happened during the World Cup. We were playing well when everybody came back. We missed him for 3 months of the season. This can't be underestimated, and his influence can't be underestimated as well. So it's just great to have him back. He's been managed well. And I think he's kind of raring to go for Sunday, which is what you want to see.
Well, that's exactly it. And he did have more chances. There were chances in the second half. He did force the keeper into a save. There was one where he cut back in on his left foot when maybe he should have taken that shot first time. I think he sort of had visions of the Manchester United goal in his mind there, where he just wanted to sit the defender down and finish. And there was another one where I think it was Kai Havertz played a very nice pass into him, and he just sort of poked it wide.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, what did you make of Havertz yesterday? He's been a guy who's been in the spotlight, was taken out of it a bit, obviously, with the introduction of Fabio Vieira, who came in and did well. But I thought this would be the kind of game where Mikel Arteta would start him. I thought this was probably his best game for us. And I know people might raise their eyes to heaven a little bit at this, but his all-round play was very good. I think when he was in midfield, he was good. When he was up top, he gave us something a little bit different as well when we started to make changes. But there, you notice him making runs that maybe some of the Arsenal players aren't quite on the same wavelength with yet. There were a couple of moments where you thought, well, look, if you could get your head up and make that pass, he's in a good position to kick it over the bar from 3 yards. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. There are aspects to his game that I think some of his teammates are getting used to. But this was, I think, a really positive night for him.
Agreed. I mean, look, as much as he's getting used to the role of our left eight and the kind of specificity that comes with it, our teammates or his teammates and our players are getting used to him as well, because he's not Granit Xhaka. He plays the role in a slightly different way, where he's more of a box crasher, working in the shadows, shall I say. And look, I don't think it was the perfect performance. I still think he has a tendency to hide from the ball a little bit in midfield. But his best spell of the game came when he was our central striker, which was weird because, we've signed him to kind of play that midfield role. But I did think he looked a bit more comfortable with the contact of the defenders behind him. I think he was looking to run in behind a bit more. I think he liked being the kind of the focal point of the team, as opposed to being the guy who maybe needs to be more of a connector, more of a facilitator. So look, it's slow steps, but steps that are being taken, and I think he desperately needs a moment, whether that's an assist or a goal, to go his way. I think he's been a little bit unlucky in that sense. Like you said, there were a few runs. There was one in particular where Trossard got free down the right-hand side, and he just had to play it along the ground, and he would have been there, but he was overhit slightly, and you could kind of see him put his arms up a bit, and that was my moment. But yeah, slowly he'll find his feet. It hasn't been an easy introduction for him, and I think you've made the point before that he's come with a lot of baggage, both from the sense that he had a difficult few years at Chelsea, but also from the fans that he is another player coming from Chelsea. You know, a lot of money, maybe wasn't the most convincing during his time in England, but I think I saw enough yesterday to show that he is making steps in the right direction. And there were even a couple of defensive interventions where I thought, good, you know, you've got stuck in there. Maybe a couple of them were fouls, but there were a few recovery runs, a few challenges that showed me that he's slowly getting to grips with what is needed from that left 8 role.
Let's hope he can, you know, continue on that positive trajectory as we go forward. But I think it was a good night for him. It was a good night as well for Martin Odegaard, who scored another goal. I mean, this driller into the bottom corner is really fast becoming his trademark, you know, from outside the box. I think he scored a goal like that, maybe just inside the box for Norway during the international break. But if you're a goalkeeper and you see Martin Odegaard lining it up on your left foot, you're diving to your left, dive early, because that's the only way you're going to get there, because the precision of his shooting is unbelievable. If you look at the replay of the Saka goal, the Odegaard shot that he takes, and it's a good save from the goalkeeper, is going straight into that bottom corner. But this sort of low driller into the bottom, it's so pleasing from an aesthetic point of view to see them whistle in beyond the goalkeeper. And you know, he's another guy who's I was watching Sky Sports at the weekend for the Everton game, and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was on going, yeah, you know, the thing about Odegaard is, I just say to him, maybe he should score a few more goals. I was like, buddy, he got 15 goals last season in the Premier League. Were you not watching?
Non-penalty goals.
Non-penalty goal. Were you not watching? I mean, he doesn't have an assist to his name so far this season, which is kind of incredible, but he's got 3 goals in 7 appearances, got his first Champions League goal for Arsenal last night, and I think it rounded out a very, very good performance from the captain.
Yeah, completely. I think it's just hilarious to me that someone who was averaging about one shot every 5 games is now taking about 3 per game, and developing this kind of trademark finish. You know, I'm running out of things to say about him. Honestly, I just think he's a technical leader in every sense. You know, he's been given the keys to this team, and everyone is just playing to his rhythm, his pace. It was like he was on the playground yesterday. And he spoke beforehand about waiting for this moment to play in the Champions League. And, you know, just the level of ball retention, the way he's able to combine with his teammates in those tight spaces, the timing and the weight of his pass is always perfect. But what I love as well is that he's always the first to press and close down passing lanes. And I just think he's added so much to his game in such a short space of time. Putting a team on your back is not an easy thing to do. And I think in the last 12 to 18 months, he's really developed an enjoyment for that responsibility. Whether that's come with the armband or not, I'm not sure. It would be a bit of a soft factor to assume that it would. But I think, look, something's obviously clicked in him, and he's just a joy to watch. Like you said, there's an inevitability to him now on the edge of the box where you think, as soon as he does that little shimmy, and he finds himself in 5 yards of space, it's going in, you know? And I think this is such a crucial part that he's managed to add to his game, where we needed goals from him, and he's doing it. And it's just so nice to watch him, because I think he's become such a complete player. When he's on it, there are few players in world football, and look, I fully acknowledge my bias here, but in world football that I would enjoy watching more. It's that simple. Yep. It's that simple.
Cannot disagree with that. I'll talk to you about substitutions in a minute, but a night when you win 4-0, and we're waxing lyrical about Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Jesus and Martin Odegaard and all the rest, Leandro Trossard, which I think is entirely fair enough. But I also think it's worth pointing out that players like that cannot really produce unless there is a stable platform behind them to allow them to sort of show their stuff. And I think, you know, the Saliba little shimmy in midfield where he just sort of does a little 1-2 and shuffles.
Iniesta would have been proud of that one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was like Busquets used to do a little bit as well, the way he just sort of move the ball from one foot to another and then get away. But I think the defenders, not so much Zinchenko, and I'm not taking anything away from Zinchenko here, but I think the defensive platform of yesterday's game was Saliba, Ben White, Gabriel, and Declan Rice. And I think a couple of times Declan Rice's passing was not quite where it should have been, overhit a few. But in terms of his defensive positioning, in terms of where he needed to be on the pitch pretty much at all times, with White behind him, with Saliba imperious, Gabriel, you know what you're going to get from Gabriel. I thought, in fairness to him, he looked a little bit tired towards the end of the game. There were a couple of moments where he was down on his hunkers, but he went away with Brazil, played a couple of games for Brazil as well. Maybe it's catching up with him a little bit.
Took a knock as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Knock to the thigh. Yeah.
But maybe those minutes are kind of what he needs. He strikes me as the kind of guy that he needs the sort of rhythm of lots of minutes to be at his best. But those three defenders and Declan Rice really helped provide the platform for the attacking performance that we were able to put in, as well as the fact, of course, that the PSV were a bit more open than some of the teams we played in the Premier League. But, they don't get the credit they deserve for what they do on a night when the attack is the one that catches all the stars and the rainbows, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, how secure do you feel with those guys standing there?
Yeah.
It's just, you watch them, even when they're coming out of the tunnel, you just feel this kind of presence with all of them. And I think, look, Saliba and Gabriel were already a kind of formidable partnership. Ben White, we know that he's been so consistent for us at centre-back and right-back now. Mm-hmm. And just adding Declan Rice in there, who has this incredible ability to just be in the right place at all times, and even when he is out of position and needs to recover, he just finds this second wind where he can accelerate in about 0.4 seconds, like a sports car, come back, nick the ball, and we go again. And look, there were times where PSV maybe did get in, although I thought that was mostly down to the ease of which we found the game. I think there maybe was a conservation of energy at times where we thought, okay, I'm not going to go busting a lung to get to this guy. I think I'm comfortable with my centre backs being able to head out whatever's coming into the box. But there's just such an assurance there, a physical assurance, but also a technical assurance. Like you said, you mentioned the croqueta there from Saliba. Ben White, so comfortable in those tight spaces in the corner, whether it's, finding Saka with a little chipped ball down the line or coming inside. Declan Rice, he just looks like he was meant to play in this team already. And I think we haven't really mentioned him in terms of yesterday's result, because he just did his work, came in, made a few tackles, won his aerial duels, and then went off. And it's just so nice to not have to talk about people, because there's a confidence in them doing their jobs. And PSV were not the sternest test we will face this season, but as these relationships develop, as their automatisms developed about where they should be standing, their positioning, who needs to cover who, it's just such a nice feeling, because for too long, every time the ball went over our halfway line, we were scared. We had to deal with David Luiz backing away into the parking lot. We had to deal with Mustafi sliding in at the corner flag. We had to deal with Kolasinac losing his position completely. It's just so nice, isn't it?
It is.
And like you said, to have this springboard, they are what allow our attackers to do what they do best.
Yeah, proper defenders. Proper defenders. And actually, can I give some props to Ben White as well? Like in the 82nd minute, there's a passage of play in the PSV half, and we're 4-0 up, and it's the 82nd minute, and he could just sit off and take the pass and go backwards. But he sees the space, he makes a run. I think it's Fabio Vieira who plays the ball into him. He gets beyond, pulls the ball back into the box. Nothing comes of it. But I think that is illustrative of the mindset that Mikel Arteta is trying to instill in these players. Like 4-0, it's game's over. It's done. Everybody knows it. Arsenal know it. PSV know it. But in the mind of Ben White, he's like, well, I've got the opportunity here to make something happen for my team, and he does it. And the easy / comfortable / save a bit of legs for the North London derby / lazy thing to do is just sort of take the ball and go back, and we'll recycle it and all the rest. But no, straightforward, goes sliding in, gets the ball across the opposition box. I think he's somebody who everyone appreciates, but maybe he doesn't get as many flowers as some of the others, because not that it's low key, but I think he does it on such a consistent basis that we get kind of used to it a little bit. So I want to give my dues to Ben White today.
And also, what a good yellow card as well. He's added another one to his collection. I mean, the way he's such a massive shithouse, isn't he?
Yeah. Just a little tapper, just grab the guy's foot. Yeah.
Just a little one, And then I love the kind of nonchalant run back as well. Like, he knows what he's done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just brilliant. And I don't think it's spoken about enough how seamless his transition from centre-back to right-back has been. Maybe not by Arsenal fans, but in the wider sense of things. I think the fact that he's still playing every game as a crucial part of this team, having changed position completely, has been nothing short of incredible.
Yeah.
And look, there were a couple of times where Noah Lang was taking him, on the outside, but again, he's just so reliable and consistent.
Yeah.
And it's what we needed for so long in a position like that.
Yeah, I did look at the yellow card and went, what's he got booked there for? What? That's very soft. What's the referee doing? And I was like, oh, I see. Fair enough. Can't argue with that one.
I'm just looking forward to the way it's coming next. What's it? Pull someone's shorts down? It's like he's running a little tickle in the armpit. What's next?
He'll do that thing, where you kneel down behind somebody and someone pushes
just push
you
him over.
Yeah, something like that.
Get Saka to push them over. Yeah. Undo someone's shoelace.
Yeah. The possibilities are endless. I would put nothing past that man. Changes obviously made with the North London derby in mind. After about an hour, we have Zinchenko and Trossard coming off, Reiss Nelson and Tomiyasu on. Reiss Nelson, of course, involved well with the Odegaard goal. Just before the 70-minute mark, just before the fourth goal, Saka and Jesus go off. Again, getting those minutes into the legs of Jesus, saving a few minutes of Saka's energy. And you get Smith Rowe and Vieira on, and Vieira's obviously played a part. But this is, maybe the first time we've seen Smith Rowe in any significant way so far this season. Mikel Arteta said he got emotional when he heard the reaction to Smith Rowe coming onto the pitch, which again shows you, goes back maybe to what we were talking about at the start, about the connection between players and fans that exists, and it's a real thing. And it is, I think, something he has to bear in mind a little bit, but it was a brilliant reception for Smith Rowe. I thought he did pretty well when he came on, looked a little bit rusty, but I don't think that's a surprise in any way, because he hasn't really played a great deal, but did end the game with 2 key passes as well. There were a couple of moments where I thought, go for it, get on your toes a little bit more, but I think it's going to take him perhaps a little bit of time to find his feet and find his rhythm, but nice to see him get on the pitch and get some minutes under his belt.
Really lovely. And as Arteta said, what a lovely moment for him to still feel like he's part of this group, when it would be very easy after, however many games this season not to make a single appearance, to feel on the fringes of it. It could have been the biggest cheer of the night, seeing him there, about to come on. So, I have missed him. To be honest, I have missed watching him, because, again, like Saka, when we needed somebody to step up and really take this team by the scruff of the neck, he was one of the few players who was successful in doing so. And for me in this squad, he's a bit of a unicorn in the way that he can score goals from midfield, and how he can turn on a sixpence and drive with the ball. I think he has a lot of unique attributes that we haven't really seen enough of. And I know that we are a really good team, and competition for places is so high. It's difficult to come in and force your way in and be able to sort of get consistent minutes. But I just loved seeing him back on the pitch again. And look, you said he was a little bit rusty. There was a couple of passes that were maybe overhit to Reece Nelson down the left-hand side. There was one moment where there was a 1-2 on, and I was just shouting at Nelson to play it back to him because he was in, but I think he decided to take a touch and then go for a shot, which was blocked. But, great to see him back. I think there will be opportunities for him this season. Maybe it's not as available as he'd like them to be, or as we would like them to be, but great to see him back. The reception was lovely. And again, it just shows you the strength in depth that we have. I mean, the bench yesterday, especially in an attacking sense, it's amazing how we've managed to turn this squad around in 2 years.
Yeah.
Really incredible.
It's chalk and cheese. And look, it felt like the door was closing a bit for Smith Rowe, and hopefully the door is open again now. The door's ajar. He can stick his foot in there and work his way back in. Of course, there's a Carabao Cup game next week, which you imagine he'll start in. So a chance for him to sort of not prove anything, but to sort of fight and to put himself more firmly in the manager's plans. These Champions League games and these games where we're playing Wednesday, Saturday, or Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever it might be, you do have to use your squad. So it's good to see him. I did enjoy, like, in the last minute, we got a free kick in midfield, and Jorginho told Gabriel and William Saliba, "Go on, get in the box there, get in the box." It was just like, oh, fuck, if I'm a centre half and it's the 94th minute and we're 4-0 up, I'm like, listen, buddy, you just take that, kick it backwards, we'll keep the ball. But, overall, a really impressive night from an Arsenal perspective. And I think it was, look, you can have games where you do what you need to do, you get the win, you get the points. But I think on our first game back, there was something about the way we played, what we did, what we delivered that said, look, we're back. This is where we're supposed to be. This is where we belong. This is the competition that's been such a big part of our history, and I'm taking nothing for granted. But it just felt a little bit like there was a statement to the result, the performance, the sort of approach, the ruthlessness with which we took apart PSV. I have to say, I loved it. I loved that. I love that sense of, we're telling you something about ourselves here. This wasn't just a 1-0. Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, 1-0, first game back. Ease yourself into the competition. It was like, boof, here we go.
Some might say this is the fogging standard, Andrew.
The fogging standards.
This is the fogging standard. Yeah, I mean, this is where we should be, right? There's no sugarcoating it. The last 6 or 7 years have not been good enough, but hopefully, let's have another 19 years of this, Because it's quite fun when you get down to it.
It is.
Just quickly, what channel were you watching on?
TNT.
What was the commentator doing with about half of our names?
I'm not sure. And he's a fairly experienced commentator, a guy called Paul Dempsey.
Yeah.
But I did not know.
Did he lose a bet? Maybe he lost a bet with someone.
I was trying to figure out who Varela was.
Fabio Barrera.
Yeah. And then there was, what was the other one? Havertz.
It was two. There was Havertz and Havertz.
It was strange, all right.
Alexander Zinchenko. He was putting the emphasis on the O at the end, yeah. Zinchenko. And Gabriel, he was, Spanish. Gabriel.
It was
Antonio Banderas style.
Puss in Boots.
Yeah, it was just so funny. And even when he was referencing the Man United Bayern score, when it dropped down in the top left-hand corner, he was like, Casemiro. They've got a goal back thanks to Casemiro, and it was just like, what are you doing?
Maybe it is a joke. Maybe it's an in-house thing. See if you can mangle names and get. But yeah, it did stand out to me a little bit as well. But I mean, I think what's interesting as well about some of the commentators now is that they're all trying to maybe do what Peter Drury does. They're all trying to be these kind of make up these beautiful poetic metaphors for what you're seeing, and it doesn't often work in the way that it should. But look, if that's all we've got really to complain about after a game against PSV in the Champions League, I think we can live with that, right?
Oh yeah, no issues. I mean, look, 4 goals, 4 different scorers, no injuries, players rested. It was the perfect night.
Perfect night. Yeah, they were just what you want ahead of a North London derby. You know, they of course have a week off because they're not in Europe. But I think from our perspective, when you're preparing for that kind of a game and that size of a game, I mean, we've all been sitting and talking about what's it going to be like when this team actually clicks. What's it going to be like when we get a bit of attacking fluency? What's it going to be like when the relationships start to develop? And you know, I don't want to say we can put our best 11 out there because I don't think we can exist with a sort of best 11 mindset. But last night was very, very promising in that regard.
Yeah, and this is just a part of what we need to adjust to now as Arsenal fans. We don't have an 11 that plays every week. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's going to be 2 changes. Sometimes it's going to be 3 changes. Sometimes it will be Raya. Sometimes it will be Ramsdale. But, you know, this is the promised land. You know, we have players, 12, 13, 14 players that we can trust to come in and perform when we need them, and at the highest level too. So, I mean,
do you think that was important in terms of the belief of some of these players? Because, you know, okay, Jesus and Zinchenko have played in the Champions League before. Kai Havertz has played in the Champions League before, but, you know, Saka hasn't, and Declan Rice hasn't, and Saliba, did he play? He might have done for Marseille.
No, I think it was Europa League.
Right.
Don't quote me on that, though.
Yeah, I mean, Raya hasn't.
Even
Ben
Martinelli
White hasn't.
Martinelli, you know, wasn't even there.
Yeah. So. You know, I think for the belief of the players that, okay, you know, this is ostensibly the highest level that you can play at in the club game. Mm-hmm. Do we belong? Is this too much for us? No, it's not. You know, we're more than capable. I think it's going to be really important for the other games in this group. So a great way to start. Just before we go, I suppose we could take a quick look around at some of the other bits and bobs that happened. I mean, Bayern Munich 4-3 Manchester United. Absolutely chaotic game of football. Andre Onana with a howler. I mean, to be fair to him, he came out, he fronted up and spoke about it afterwards. But what I'd said to Lewis, you know, about Bayern Munich not being what they were, you know, the last time we played them, I sort of read out the 2 teams from our last Champions League game. It was like, oh, okay, you can see the gulf here. You can't really see that gulf, and I think that sort of was borne out a little bit in this game where they conceded 3 goals, scored 4. United again all over the shop, which is fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to Manchester United for signing a goalkeeper who can't use his hands after letting another goalkeeper leave who couldn't use his feet. So balance is the key to life. But no worries. Onana made 897 passes in the Arsenal half a few weeks ago. So yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, actually, to be honest, I think Bayern really are not the dominant force we usually know them to be, but they still had 19 shots. They hit the post twice. They scored 4 goals. And United are just an embarrassment. You know, again, there's clips going around this morning of McTominay, who came on in the 67th minute, refusing to track people in the 79th minute. You know, Bruno Fernandes is playing hero ball and trying left-footed half volleys from 25 yards that get ballooned into row Z, you know, and that's when he's not sulking at the referees or at his teammates. It's bad. It's bad.
Long may it continue.
Absolutely.
What about Jude Bellingham? What an incredible start to his career at Real Madrid. I think it's 7 goals now in 8 games, something, or maybe less.
And about 3 of them have come in injury time.
Unbelievable. You know, I mean,
I felt so bad for Union Berlin, I have to say. You know, I watched them lump the ball around in 2019 and was certain they'd be straight back down to the Zweite Bundesliga. And they were minutes away from keeping a clean sheet at the Bernabeu three years later. It's absolutely incredible. I don't think enough attention is being paid to their story. But yeah, just heartbreaking to lose in those circumstances, having kind of kept them out for so long. But Bellingham just has this aura about him in a similar way to Declan Rice. Maybe Bellingham has more personality, I'd say, but to be able to carry a club of Real Madrid stature on his back at 20 years of age is nothing short of incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
Genuinely. Yeah. And the way he's been able to come in and make an instant impact is a testament to his ability, really.
Yeah, and I you know what as well, I think it's worth pointing out that I think he has made a brilliant decision for him. He's made a brilliant decision. I mean, look, I guess it's not much of a fucking decision when Real Madrid come in for you and you're 20 years of age. But, there were other options available to him, and maybe there was, maybe more lucrative options. Maybe there's more money in the Premier League, but I think in terms of his own career and his own development as a footballer and a person, he's only 20 years of age. He's now going to live in another country, learn a different language, all the cultural things that come with all of that. I think it's a testament to, the way his career has been managed and the decisions that have been made around him. And he's just an amazing footballer. Can I ask you, just going back to the Man United game, what you thought of the handball decision on Christian Eriksen? There was a similar one in the PSG Borussia Dortmund game where I'm thinking, fuck, that can't be handball.
It's harsh. I mean, yes, it's slightly away from his body. I think it was Christian Eriksen, wasn't it? I mean, an incident like that should not give the opposition an 80% chance of scoring a goal.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. And I think especially in Europe, they are a lot more prone to giving handballs as penalties in the area. But it just felt really harsh to me. And I don't think, if that was awarded against Arsenal, I would have been fuming personally.
Same with the one in the PSG game as well.
Yeah.
Mbappe scored the penalty. I mean, I don't think Borussia Dortmund were any good in that game.
No.
But it's still very, very harsh. Newcastle 0-0 with AC Milan on their first Champions League game.
Somehow 0-0. Bit fortunate, I would say.
Yeah,
a little bit fortunate. I thought Nick Pope had a very good game. They were also, they as in Milan were also quite profligate.
Rafael Leao, that moment where he just dribbled into the box and then I'm going, shoot. Just shoot with your foot. And he tried the back heel thing. It's just like, oh, come on.
Smash it into the corner. Yeah. There's no need for... You already did the hard work. And Giroud missed another trademark near post finish. There was even one at the end where, there was like a crazy scramble. But then Newcastle could have nicked it as well. I think Sean Longstaff had a shot that was well saved. So, I think Milan will be the ones regretting that goalless draw, I'd say.
Goal of the week in terms of Champions League, I think, came from Lazio's goalkeeper in the last minute against Atletico Madrid. I mean, what incredible movement and what a finish. I mean, if any centre forward had pulled that off, you go, wow, that's a classic number 9 goal, isn't it? I suppose there might be something to the idea that goalkeepers are very good at judging the flight of a ball in the air. You don't see them in the opposition box too often, but what a fucking goal that was.
Yeah, and the sheer confusion about who's picking up who's following him in. It was amazing as well. This is, I think his name's Ivan Provedel. He was wearing the number 94 and he scores a bullet header in the 94th minute to equalise against Atletico Madrid.
It is written
in the Champions League.
It is written on the back of his shirt.
I mean, what I loved most about this moment was not the header or the movement, but the absolute confusion at then having to celebrate. I think he would have looked more comfortable taking an aerodynamics exam than celebrating at that moment. I mean, the awkwardness of the run back to his goal is just brilliant. It's so good. They never know what to do they? On the off chance that they do score. But what an incredible moment. Yeah. Just once in a lifetime, isn't it?
I mean, if this is the kind of entertainment the Champions League is going to serve up to us this season, I'm all for it. On top of an Arsenal win, goalkeeper scoring, Manchester United getting beaten. It's been a good first Champions League week, Phil.
I'd say so. And yeah, just really great to be back because there's such a feeling of belonging in this tournament. And even when we were in it, there was a strong feeling of underachievement. So now is the time to put that right, because I genuinely think, looking around, the standard is not as high as I maybe thought. Mm-hmm. And there could be a way for us to get far in here. But I'm not going to say anything and jinx it.
Okay.
But there could be a way in, is what I'm saying.
All right. Well, let's hope you're right. It will all play out in front of us. And of course, we will discuss the Arsenal games and the Champions League in general on these series of podcasts throughout the season. For now, we'll leave it there. Phil, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much indeed to Phil. You can find him on Twitter. He is at _Phil Costa, at _Phil Costa. So, the first Champions League game is done and dusted. 3 points in the bag or on the table, whichever way you would like to put that. Now the attention turns, of course, to the North London derby, which takes place on Sunday. For more on that game, for a full preview, we'll take into account Mikel Arteta's press conference, which takes place Friday at 1:30 p.m. You can join myself and Lewis Ambrose over on Patreon. We will do our usual Premier League preview podcast. If you're not already a member, you can sign up for basically about $5 a month. You get instant access to everything we do on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Arseblog, patreon.com/Arseblog. We will, of course, have an Arsecast extra for you on Monday as well, so please do join us for that. In the meantime, take it easy, have a great weekend, and we will catch you on the next one. Until then, cheers, bye-bye.